The top 3 scariest lockdown stories. Part 3. Number 3. The silent footsteps. It was just a drill. A routine lockdown drill at a high school in Ohio. Students were sitting quietly in a dark classroom, listening to their teacher's hushed instructions. They were supposed to stay low, make no noise, keep their eyes down. The teacher's voice was calm as she whispered, "Remember, stay quiet. Don't move." For a few moments, there was only silence, the kind that can feel heavy after a while. Then, in the distance, they heard it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps coming closer. The teacher's face drained of color. No one was supposed to be in the hallway. The footsteps echoed, seeming to get louder, heavier. The students pressed themselves against the floor, holding their breath. Their teacher's eyes were wide with fear. Then, just as suddenly as they started, the footsteps stopped. Outside the classroom door, a long pause hung in the air. Then, a scratching sound, like someone trying to push their way in. The doorknob rattled. Something was trying to get in. The students huddled together, eyes squeezed shut, hearts pounding. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps moved away again, dragging and slow. Their teacher let out a shaky breath. Finally, the all clear sounded over the intercom, and the students, still shaky, began to move. They filed out of the classroom, blinking in the sudden sunlight. When the principal made the announcement over the intercom, his voice tight with concern, "There has been a security breach. There's a lockdown." Confused murmurs rippled through the stunned students. But before anyone could speak, the bell rang, signaling the end of the lockdown drill. Strange, they hadn't heard any footsteps during the drill. So, who was making those dragging sounds? The school was checked, but no intruder was found. And the next day, the principal called an assembly. He explained that, due to a malfunction, the security cameras weren't working during the drill. However, when they reviewed the footage after the drill, they saw what they shouldn't have. On the monitor, a shadowy figure seemed to glide through the empty hallway. To this day, some students swear they still hear those footsteps whenever the school does another lockdown drill. Number 2, the crying girl. It wasn't a drill. It was a real lockdown. A lockdown at a Texas school. Students had just heard a commotion outside. Shouts, screams, and the sound of shattering glass. Now they were huddled together inside a bathroom stall, hugging the floor. Some cried, some prayed. And then they heard it. A soft, sniffling cry coming from the stall next to theirs. At first, they thought it was one of the students, a scared freshman who didn't know where else to go. But when one of them called out, "Hey, are you okay?" the crying stopped instantly. Moments later, the crying started again, louder now, the sound of someone sobbing uncontrollably. One of the students, his voice shaking, asked, "Do you think we should call out for help?" But before he could finish his sentence, the stall's door swung open, slowly, revealing the empty space within. They watched, breathless, as the door began to close on its own. Then they heard it, the unnatural sound of distorted laughter echoing through the bathroom. Panicked, they ran out as soon as the lockdown was over. Later, when the school was cleared and the students were sent home, the janitor told them a grim tale. Years ago, a girl had taken her own life in that very bathroom after being bullied relentlessly by her peers. Since then, some said her spirit had stayed behind, seeking solace in the place she once found comfort. Whenever the school went into lockdown, she would cry, and sometimes, if the echoes were just right, you could hear her laughter. No. One. The shadow. The lockdown came suddenly. High school in California. Students were making their way to the library, moving quickly, but silently. They had just received the alert over their phones. A stranger was on campus, possibly armed, and everyone was to lock themselves in the nearest room. They reached the library, its glass doors locked and barricaded. Inside, rows upon rows of books stood silent and still. As the students fumbled with the heavy wooden door, one of them whispered, "I saw him." "He's coming this way." Their voices were tense, their eyes wide. Once inside, they turned off the lights, making the darkness deeper, more profound. Then they heard it, a creaking sound, like footsteps. They froze, listening intently. Then they saw it, a tall, dark shape sliding slowly between the bookshelves. At first, they thought it was one of their teachers, but the figure was too tall, too thin, like a distorted, emaciated human. It seemed to move without sound, without weight, as if gliding over the carpeted floor. One student gasped, pointing toward the figure as it drifted closer, its head tilting at an unnatural angle as if searching for them. Then, just as abruptly as it had appeared, the shadow vanished. They huddled together, unsure what to do, when suddenly every computer screen in the library flickered on, bathing the room in an eerie white glow. The shadow was gone. The police searched the building, finding nothing. But the library's cameras told a different story. They showed the students hiding, trembling in the dark, yet on the footage, a tall, distorted figure could be seen standing directly behind them the entire time. Which story was your favorite? Mine was the crying girl, because even though the lockdown was real, the fact that they couldn't see or hear anything makes me feel like if I was there, I would have lost my mind. What about you? Also, comment down below your scariest lockdown experience. I want to read them. And if you want to hear more scary stories, click here. Sweet nightmares.